When money loses its meaning, survival becomes the new economy. We tend to think of value as something fixed, a number printed on a piece of paper or displayed on a digital screen. It's an article of faith, a collective agreement that a dollar, a euro, or a yen holds a certain power to acquire goods and services. But this faith is fragile. It is built upon a complex and sprawling system of governments, banks, supply chains, and global trust. When those systems begin to fracture, when the trucks stop running and the banks close their doors, that faith can evaporate in an instant. The numbers on the screen become meaningless, and the paper in your wallet becomes just that, paper. This isn't a speculative fantasy, it's a recurring chapter in the story of civilization. History has shown this to us over and over again in empires and nations across the world. When the official systems of commerce fail, people do not simply stop trading. They do not cease to seek out the things they need to live, to protect their families, or to find a small measure of comfort in a world turned upside down. The human drive to barter, to exchange, and to create value is relentless. It simply changes its form. It goes underground, away from the hollowed-out institutions and into the hands of individuals. The economy doesn't die, it transforms. A new, more primal marketplace is born out of necessity, one that operates in the shadows, guided by a different set of rules. This is what the black market looks like after collapse. It's not about illicit goods in the way we think of them today. It's about the fundamental reallocation of value based on one thing and one thing only: immediate usefulness. The stock market tickers are replaced by the rumbling of a generator. The price of gold is forgotten, but the price of a bottle of antibiotics becomes a matter of life and death. The complex financial instruments that once governed global trade are rendered obsolete, replaced by a simple, brutal calculation of what can keep you warm, fed, and safe for another day. This is the real economy, the one that emerges when the illusion of the old one has been stripped away. When the dollar finally dies, or whatever currency you rely on ceases to function, a new one will rise to take its place. It won't be announced by a government or managed by a central bank. It will be decided in quiet conversations, in desperate exchanges on deserted streets, and in the careful weighing of risk versus reward. The new currency will be whatever ordinary people decide it is. It will be tangible, it will be practical, and its value will be understood by everyone, because it will be directly tied to survival. Forget what you think you know about wealth. The rules are about to change entirely, and understanding them is the first step toward enduring what comes next. Stay with me. Every major societal collapse gives rise to two distinct economies. First, the official one, publicly failing. You see it on the news: hyperinflation, bank holidays, worthless currency, the ghost of the old system, institutions in name only, unable to function. Then the second economy, the underground one, rises to replace it, the real marketplace where life happens. Farmer trades a bag of potatoes for fuel, mechanic fixes a water pump for medicine, communities create informal systems of value. This pattern repeats through history. Western Rome, denarius debased to near worthlessness. Soldiers paid in salt, grain, land, tangible sustenance. Official currency failed. Economy of survival endured. Great Depression USA. Banks shuttered. Cash scarce. Local barter networks emerged. Communities issued scrip. People traded dental work for firewood. Sacks of flour for mechanical repairs. A parallel economy grew. Argentina 2001. Bank freezes. The peso collapses. Millions join Clubs de Trueque. Markets trade home-baked bread, and professional services via community credits. Official economy paralyzed. Grassroots networks supplied necessities. When centralized money fails, human ingenuity builds decentralized, tangible systems. It's not a choice, an imperative. These are blueprints, not footnotes. Currency collapse is a beginning, not an end. It shows what truly holds value when complexity peels away. Lessons from Rome, the American Dust Bowl, and modern Buenos Aires point to the same truths. Understand this, prepare for the future. By the end, you'll know items worth more than gold, and what's already becoming currency today. The initial phase of a currency collapse begins not with a dramatic crash, but with a quiet, creeping erosion of trust. At first, the numbers still appear on the screen and the paper still feels the same in your hand, but a subtle change occurs in the collective consciousness. People begin to notice that their money buys a little less this week than it did last week. The price of fuel, bread, other daily necessities starts to climb at a rate that feels unsettling, outpacing wages and savings. This is the classic signature of hyperinflation, seen in Weimar Germany in the 1920s, wheelbarrows full of cash for a loaf of bread. The currency itself hadn't changed, but faith in its future value had been obliterated. This loss of faith is a contagion. It spreads from person to person and from market to market. Governments print more money to cover shortfalls, which only accelerates the decline. Each new bill dilutes the value of the others, signaling the currency is no longer a reliable store of wealth. In 1990s, Yugoslavia, the dinar plummeted, prices doubled in hours. People rushed to spend paychecks the moment they received them, because by the next day earnings could be worthless. Money stops being for saving and becomes a hot potato. The transition to a meaningless token is shockingly swift. It is a psychological tipping point. Once enough people believe money is failing, it becomes self-fulfilling. They stop accepting it for goods and services, or demand exponentially more of it. The official economy becomes a hollow shell. Government price controls are announced but ignored on the street. Official exchange rates become a fantasy, while a black market for more stable, foreign currencies and for tangible goods dictates real prices. The numbers no longer matter. What matters is what you can hold in your hand. This is the foundational crack in the system. The modern financial architecture, from credit cards to stock markets, relies on stable currency. When that assumption is shattered, the whole edifice sways. The problem isn't just affordability, it's the functionality of money. People aren't just poor. They're trapped by a broken economic tool. They are forced to find alternatives, not out of greed or crime, but to survive and provide for their families. The fall of money is, first and foremost, a fall of trust. Yeah. In our modern world, the collapse of currency will be even more abrupt and disorienting because so little of our wealth is physical. The vast majority of money exists only as digital entries on a bank server. It's an abstract concept, a string of code, accessed with a plastic card or a phone app. This system works with incredible efficiency as long as the network of electricity, internet connectivity, and interbank communication remains intact. But in a systemic crisis, these are often the first things to fail. A widespread power outage, a cyber attack on the financial system, a government decree can render all digital wealth instantly inaccessible. Your life savings, your retirement fund, your direct deposit paycheck, all can vanish behind a dead screen. Imagine going to an ATM and it's offline. You try to pay for groceries. The card reader says network error. Your banking app won't load. At first it's an inconvenience. When it persists for a day, then two, panic sets in. The numbers in your account might as well be on the moon. You have wealth but no way to use it. This happened in several modern crises. In 2015, Greece, banks closed and daily ATM withdrawals were limited to 60 euros. People with tens of thousands in the bank stood in long lines hoping machines wouldn't run out. This dependency on fragile digital infrastructure is the Achilles heel of the modern economy. A collapse today freezes the means of transaction. Credit cards, debit cards, wire transfers, peer-to-peer apps become useless artifacts. Physical cash is hoarded and spent only on essentials. Its value soars then collapses under hyperinflation and shortages. The transition would be brutal. One moment you're in a 21st century economy, the next you're back to tangible assets. Digital paralysis accelerates a shift to black markets. When official trade methods shut down, informal, tangible trade is the only alternative. People will look in their homes, their garages, their pantries. The question becomes, what do I have that someone else needs? This is when society's true inventory is taken. Not dollars or euros, but gallons of gasoline, cans of food, bottles of medicine, boxes of ammunition. The illusion of digital wealth evaporates. Physical survival remains. So, heads up. The final nail in the coffin for fiat currency is the breakdown of supply chains. Money, even if accessible, is only valuable if there are goods and services to purchase. When the trucks stop running, the store shelves empty with terrifying speed. We've seen previews of this during natural disasters and, more recently, during the global pandemic. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer, canned goods. Now imagine that on a national scale, affecting not just a few items but everything. Food, fuel, medicine, parts, raw materials. A currency, no matter its perceived value, is worthless if there is nothing to buy. This is the stage where the official economy truly ceases to exist in any practical sense. This is what happened in Venezuela in the 2010s. Years of economic mismanagement led to hyperinflation, but the real crisis was the escasez, scarcity. Stores were barren, people had pockets full of bolivars, but there was no food to buy, no medicine in the pharmacies, no replacement parts for broken cars or appliances. The government published official prices for goods that didn't exist in the official stores. The real economy had moved entirely to the black market. A single bag of flour or a bottle of cooking oil could cost a month's salary. The bolivar wasn't just devalued, it was irrelevant. The real currencies were food, medicine, and US dollars. In this environment, the very concept of a price in the official currency becomes a dark joke. The value of an item is no longer determined by MSRP or a barcode, it is determined by scarcity and desperation. A father whose child has a bacterial infection is not thinking about the cost of antibiotics in dollars or pesos, he is thinking about what he has to trade to save his child's life. He might offer a car, a generator, or a lifetime's worth of stored food for that one small bottle. The abstract value of money is replaced by the immediate, situational value of a good. This is the birth of the barter economy, born from the ashes of the retail economy. As the shelves go bare, the focus of daily life shifts from earning money to acquiring supplies. The search for food, clean water, and fuel becomes a full-time job. People with essential skills, doctors, mechanics, welders, farmers, find their labor is in higher demand than any CEO or banker. A person who can repair a generator or purify water holds more economic power than someone with $1 million stock portfolio. This is the great inversion of value that characterizes a true collapse. The system doesn't just fail, it flips upside down. The fall of money is complete when the grocery store is empty, because at that point, survival itself becomes the only commodity that matters. Once the illusion of money has shattered and the formal economy has seized up, human needs revert to their most basic primal state. In this new reality, value is no longer abstract, it is tangible, immediate, and directly tied to sustaining life. Out of the chaos, a new, unwritten economic law emerges, and it is governed by three core pillars of value. These are the foundational currencies of every collapse scenario, the bedrock upon which all other barter and trade will be built. They are quite simply food, medicine, fuel. Everything else becomes secondary to these essentials, because without them, survival is measured in days, if not hours. These are not just commodities, they are the new gold standard of a world stripped bare. First and foremost is food, but not just any food. The currency here is calories, dense, non-perishable, and easily stored. Rice, beans, flour, sugar, salt, canned goods, these items represent life itself. When trust in institutions disappears, the ability to feed your family becomes the ultimate measure of wealth. A 20-pound bag of rice is no longer just a pantry staple, it is a reserve asset, a tangible store of value that can be consumed for survival or traded for other critical needs. In a world without functioning grocery stores, the person who has stored and can protect a supply of calories holds immense power. This is the currency of sustenance, universally understood and desired by all. The second pillar is medicine. In a collapse, access to modern healthcare vanishes, pharmacies are looted or their supplies expire, and doctors are unable to treat patients without the necessary tools and medications. This makes basic medical supplies incredibly valuable. Antibiotics, amoxicillin, doxycycline, pain relievers, ibuprofen, first aid supplies, sterile bandages, antiseptics, trauma kits. Capable of turning a simple infected cut from a death sentence back into a manageable injury. They are life-saving assets worth more than their weight in any precious metal. The third pillar of this new economy is fuel. Our modern world runs on energy, and when the grid goes down and gas stations run dry, any source of power becomes a critical commodity. Gasoline, diesel, propane, generators for electricity, vehicles for transportation or escape, stoves for cooking and boiling water. A 5-gallon can of gasoline can mean the difference between having light and heat or being left in the cold and dark. It can power the tools needed to rebuild or the vehicle required to reach a safer location. Warmth, mobility, power. Fuel is the currency of warmth, mobility, and power, the essential ingredient that allows for work to be done and a semblance of modern life to be maintained against the encroaching darkness. If you want to understand the realities of collapse and how to prepare before it happens, subscribe to A Small Town Prepper. We study what history taught, so you can survive what's next. While the three pillars of food, medicine, and fuel form the large denomination currency of a collapse, a healthy barter economy needs its own version of pocket change. These are items that are not strictly necessary for immediate survival, but are highly desirable, portable, divisible, and hold a consistent value. They are the transactional grease that facilitates smaller trades and everyday exchanges. Historically, in almost every crisis scenario, a few key items have risen to fill this role. The most famous of these are cigarettes and alcohol. In post-World War II Europe, particularly in Germany, cigarettes became the unofficial currency. The Reichsmark was worthless. American soldiers and German civilians alike used cigarettes to buy and sell everything. A single cigarette could buy a small food item, while a carton could be exchanged for more significant goods or services. Even non-smokers accepted them as payment, knowing they could easily be traded for something else they needed. They were, in effect, the pocket money of the black market. Alcohol, especially hard liquor like whiskey, vodka, or rum, serves a similar purpose, but with added utility. Like cigarettes, it is a powerful morale booster and a social lubricant, something people will always desire, but it also has practical applications. High-proof spirits can be used as an antiseptic for cleaning wounds, a disinfectant for surfaces, or even as a fuel source in certain types of lamps or stoves. It stores indefinitely if sealed properly, and is easily divisible for trade. A flask of whiskey could be traded for a hot meal, while a full bottle could secure a more valuable item, like a box of ammunition or a needed tool. Its dual use as both a comfort good and a practical supply gives it a stable and high value in any barter network. Other items also fall into this category of small change. Coffee and sugar, lighters and waterproof matches, simple bars of soap. These goods are the coins and small bills of the collapse economy. They are not the assets you build your wealth on, but they are the tools you use for daily commerce, allowing for a fluid and functional marketplace to emerge from the wreckage of the old one. Within these developing barter networks, a clear hierarchy of desirable goods quickly establishes itself. These items are essential for survival, rebuilding security, and maintaining a semblance of normalcy. Third are the tools and hardware that allow for repair and fortification. A well-stocked toolbox is a treasure chest. Wrenches, screwdrivers, hammers, saws, nails, screws, rope, duct tape, tarps, lumber. The final two pillars are inextricably linked: ammunition and medicine. Ammunition is the currency of security, a deterrent, a means of defense. Lastly, medicine, especially antibiotics, remains at the pinnacle of value. A single course of amoxicillin could be worth a month's supply of food or a rifle. You don't have to look to a full-scale societal collapse to see the beginnings of these black market dynamics. The seeds of this survival economy sprout whenever the formal system is temporarily disrupted. We see it in the aftermath of major natural disasters. When a hurricane makes landfall, commerce grinds to a halt. Credit card machines go dark. Supply trucks can't get through. Grocery stores are stripped bare within hours. In that vacuum, an informal needs-based economy instantly appears. What becomes valuable? Not stocks, not bonds. Gasoline for the generator, a bag of ice to keep food from spoiling, bottled water when taps run dry. People with generators rent them out by the hour in exchange for fuel. Neighbors with a working well might trade water for baby formula or batteries. Critical medications show the same pattern. People form frantic, informal networks via social media. They will drive for hours and trade whatever they have. Cash, food, other supplies. The black market is a latent system beneath daily life. A charged power bank becomes more valuable than a $100 bill when the grid is down. Value recalibrates based on immediate utility. What we witness is the muscle memory of human survival, people creating value and trade when centralized systems fail. In a true systemic collapse, one of the first casualties would be the vast digital infrastructure that tracks our every transaction. The interconnected web of financial surveillance, credit card logs, bank transfers, digital payment histories would simply cease to exist, forcing all trade into small, highly localized and intensely personal networks. The market would shrink from a global network to the distance your voice can carry. Without digital tracking, trade reverts to its oldest form, word of mouth. Reputation is everything. A person known for fair dealings will attract more trading partners, while someone who scams or cheats will quickly find themselves isolated. You don't just trade with a stranger, You trade with someone who was recommended by a person you trust. The danger is no longer identity theft, the danger is physical. A bad trade isn't just a financial loss, it could be a violent encounter. Trust is the currency that enables all other currencies to flow, and it is earned in drops and lost in buckets. In this new reality, the concept of self-sufficiency takes on a profound and complex meaning. If you can produce your own food, purify your own water, generate your own power, and defend your own location, you minimize your need to engage in the risky world of barter. This level of independence is the ultimate form of security, a fortress of resilience against the chaos. However, while self-sufficiency reduces your need to trade, it simultaneously increases your capacity to trade, giving you immense leverage. Your surplus becomes your capital. It allows you to set the terms of trade from a position of strength, not desperation. This creates a critical strategic choice. Hoarding everything invites isolation and makes you a target for a larger, more organized group. Ultimately, true resilience is not just about having supplies, it's about being a node of production. This is the paradox of self-sufficiency. The more you can do for yourself, the more you have to offer others. And in a world where trust is gone and systems have failed, being a valuable and reliable trading partner is one of the surest paths to long-term survival. You trade not because you have to, but because you can. As we look toward the future, the phases we've explored, the fall of currency, its replacement by essentials, the rise of barter networks, the reality of survival trade, all point to a single, overarching truth. In a world stripped of complex systems, value isn't set by scarcity or by gold, it's set by immediate, practical utility. Wealth won't be an abstract bank number, it will be your ability to keep your family alive, safe, and healthy. To predict what a collapse will value, think about modern dependencies. Renewable power matters. Batteries of all kinds. Clean water tech. Seeds. Consumable comforts keep morale. Coffee, salt, sugar. When the grid falls and money fails, what's valuable isn't rare. It's what keeps people alive. This forces us to reevaluate preparations. A vault of gold may be a poor substitute for a well-stocked medical kit, a comprehensive library of how-to books, a repeatable practical skill. The future of value is decentralized, tangible, and deeply practical. It favors producers, the skilled, and the prepared. Understanding this shift is the first step toward building true, resilient wealth that can withstand the coming storm. We have walked through the grim but logical progression of a world remade by necessity. Survival is not a game of accumulation. The person who simply hoards the most supplies is not guaranteed to succeed. The black market, in its rawest form, is not an evil or criminal enterprise, it is survival economics. The key to navigating this new world is not hoarding, but adaptation. It is the ability to understand the fluid nature of value, to acquire practical skills, to build cautious, trust-based networks. The strong don't just hoard, they adapt. They learn to produce, to repair, to trade intelligently. They understand that a surplus of one good can be transformed into a life-saving medicine or a critical tool through skillful negotiation. They know that a good reputation and a network of reliable allies are more valuable and more resilient than any physical wall they could build. The black market that emerges after a collapse is a brutal, unforgiving meritocracy. It rewards those who are useful, who are resourceful. In the end, true value is not something that can be printed. It is created. It is created by a seed pushing through the soil. It is created by a skilled hand repairing a vital machine. It is created by the courage and ingenuity of individuals who refuse to give in to despair, who instead choose to build, to trade, and to create a new economy from the ashes of the old.